I do think that companies look for fresh perspectives. Just because you don't have experience in tech sales might actually be an advantage to you because the company may not want to train somebody that already has bad habits from a previous role. My resume was way overcomplicated. I had like a 3-page resume, which is a no-no. And I have lots of different certificates just because I like to learn. It doesn't mean anything. Probably doesn't even mean you're going to get the interview. So nothing really worked to break in until...
I'm really excited to share my conversation with Jason today, especially because I know many of you watching this channel or looking at our platform Higher Levels are coming from different backgrounds and different industries altogether. Jason most recently spent 6 years in financial services and admittedly struggled early on to take all of that experience and package it in a meaningful way for interviews. But in this conversation, we go very deep into how he ultimately reworded many things. He changed his approach altogether. And I know if you're in that situation where you're coming from a different career looking at tech sales, you're gonna get a ton out of this. Jason, we're really excited for you. Palo Alto Networks is a market leading company and I know you're gonna do great things. And I know everyone watching is gonna get a ton out of this conversation.
Hey everybody, we're really excited to speak with Jason this week, who just broke into Palo Alto Networks. Awesome company. Jason, I know you attacked this process and we'll definitely get into that. Maybe as a starting point for everyone's reference, tell us a little bit about your background and what got you looking at tech sales.
Yeah, so my background is in financial services, financial sales. I have a little bit of an eclectic background. Even before that, I was in healthcare, but for the focus of this conversation, for the last 7-8 years, been in financial sales and had always wanted to get into tech in some way, shape, or form, and tried the coding route, coding boot camps, tried all different kinds of things, and nothing really worked to break in until I started looking into more of the tech sales route and Higher Levels and some other resources that are out there.
Yeah, very great starting point. And I wasn't even aware that you had taken other coding boot camps and things like that in the past. And I'm curious too, right? I imagine you maybe find out about tech sales. I'm curious where you found out about it, but also having taken other boot camps in the past and not had success. Had you tried anything on your own when it came to breaking into tech sales, and what ultimately led to this decision of still moving forward with Higher Levels?
Really my background with trying to go to tech sales route, maybe over the last like 2 or 3 years, I was interested in moving away from finance and into something that I could get passionate about, which I feel like tech has a really long runway, decade or more, probably longer than we could even fathom with AI now being incorporated. And really the resources that I used was a lot of YouTube, a lot of Udemy. I'd looked into Course Career, some of the other things that were out there. But it was sort of just like Mickey Mouse. Like I wasn't able to have this whole thing that I could put together. It was like I was sending out 1 or 2 resumes a week when really I should have been sending out multiple per day. I wasn't tracking anything. I wasn't really organized in my process. And I think I didn't have like a game plan or any organization. And that's what held me back the most from not being able to get in over the last 2 or 3 years.
I guess like when you said, hey, I see Higher Levels, looks super interesting. You'd already been, I'm not gonna say burned by other programs, but they didn't work out. Like what was it about Higher Levels that made you say, hey, this is different. This is something that I feel like is the right move for me moving forward. And obviously like you committed to tech sales, but you were looking at different boot camps. What made you join Higher Levels, or what made you feel more comfortable with us?
I think it was more of the focus on practicality around your program and less of the focus on certificates. I think certificates are important, but there's like this over reliance on, hey, if you have the certificate, you're going to get in the door. And I have lots of different certificates just because I like to learn. It doesn't mean anything. It probably doesn't even mean you're going to get the interview. So I like the way that Higher Levels approached it from, hey, like you almost need to interview for the job before you have the job. And there's all of these things that you need to be doing in order to do that. And so I think for me, it was like, okay, I already know just having the paper certificate doesn't matter a whole lot. It's more about practicality. What do I need to do to actually get in and get the job?
Nice. I love that. It's funny when we first started Higher Levels, we had like a very strict, like no certificate policy, because exactly what you said is like, it doesn't do anything. It actually misleads you. And then people they spend all their time getting their certificate and then thinking that once I have this certificate in hand, it's going to like magically just give me a job. So
yeah. I thought I wanted to do project management at one point. I'm so happy that I didn't do that, and I stay as an individual contributor to sales, because that's really where my skill set is, my passion is. But I have the project management professional certificate, the PMP, which is like the gold standard, right? And nothing, no interviews, no luck getting in, and it's again, I wasn't organized in my approach, didn't have a system, there wasn't anything practical about it that could push me down that path of getting to where I wanted to go.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yep.
And I love the way you think, and we obviously 100% agree with it. We obviously have certificates inside of higher levels now, but know that is not the core focus of what we try to teach. So I guess, Jason, now that you've been through the program, what was the most valuable part of the program? Obviously not certificates, but was there a specific segment or category? Some people need extra help with their resume. Some people need extra help with like navigating the interviews. Was there a specific part of it that maybe was more helpful to you that you needed more help with?
Yeah, I think a couple of the things. My resume was way overcomplicated. I had like a 3-page resume, which is a no-no. And I was shocked to see during the course how y'all, made your suggestions of really shortening the resume up. And I thought, man, this actually makes sense, because from a recruiter's perspective or a hiring manager's perspective, they have such limited time that they're going to spend 3 seconds on a resume, and you could have this big, beautiful resume. It doesn't mean anything. They're going to miss most of it. So I think that was a shocker to me to see how short y'all recommend resumes to be. And then the other thing that really helped me was just how you organize the hunting process, like with the Excel sheets and all the stuff that you provided. I'm just not good at creating Excel sheets and doing all that. So it's nice that it was kind of turnkey, and it's like, okay, this is how you follow the system. It's kind of like baking, right? And you just follow that path, and eventually you get the cake at the end.
Yeah. And credit to Chris on that one. I'm the same way. I keep too much in my head, and I'm bad about making systems. So
yeah,
that's great to hear. And no, I love it. Like, obviously with higher levels, we have students at different phases of life for sure, all breaking in. And I think to your unique situation and really advice for people out there, I'd love to pick into your brain as to, you have this eclectic experience. You've got some good domain expertise in different fields as well. How do you begin to package that, maybe for both getting attention on your resume and also maybe those early round interviews, convincing them that like you do want to do tech sales, you are going to be a fit? I'd love to pick your brain.
Yeah, I think, never discount the fact, if you're in any sort of people facing role where you've got relationship building, that's a huge factor in sales. And I believe all sales are sort of the same. You can learn a product stack, you can learn a product suite, whatever you're trying to sell. But I think the hard stuff the hard part of it is having those relationship skills, having those people facing skills. So whether you're, I was, even way back in the day, I was a bagger at a grocery store, but I was getting that FaceTime with people and getting comfortable talking to people, right? And how's your day going? All that stuff, and having conversations. So that's really big. I think you can, with almost anything that you do or have done, even if it's not job related, if you're in school and you're doing something, you're part of a group, you're part of a community, you can lean on all of these things and relate them back to how it will benefit you in that sales role, whether it's working with the teammates that you've got or the management that you have, or, being able to talk to people and learn quickly, I guess,
Yep. No, that's
like that.
Always great experiences. Yeah, for sure. And I know, like, even in when I interviewed in like college and some of my first jobs, like I worked in Chipotle in college, and I would like make jokes about that because like everyone's had Chipotle at this point, right? And never discount all of these different things that can contribute to kind of getting you over that hump in their eyes. Also, maybe, Palo Alto Networks, by the way, rather technical company. You don't necessarily have tech experience. Correct me if I'm wrong there. So
Right.
As you maybe get into these more, complicated rounds of interviews, I'm not sure all the things you had to do, whether it was a cold call exercise, demonstration. How did you prepare for those? Any advice to someone on the outside looking in that thinks this is too technical or that they can't do it?
I think the biggest thing that helped me was really taking the time to go through Palo Alto Networks, understanding what their product was, utilize YouTube. There's tons of free resources out there to understand whatever the product is that company you're interested in is selling. Go research that so that you know how to speak to that in an interview. In my case with Palo Alto Networks, it was a demo call, but also a cold call. And you know, you can get cold call scripts, you can practice all these things. Even in higher levels, y'all had demo call examples, so that helped too. So I think getting exposure from lots of different angles. I even practiced with my brother, I practiced with my wife, you know, going through and making sure it all sounded good. They really only wanted a 10 or 15-minute call. So it wasn't like this huge blown out 45-minute sales presentation. They just wanted to see that I could ask good questions, get the person who I was talking to commit and set the next appointment with the AE. And they threw objections. You have to be able to objection handle and, you know, don't take no for an answer and get them to schedule.
Nice. I love it. It's pretty crazy. Like we hear of all these new things that companies are making folks do. So, I mean, not out of the ordinary by any means, but kudos to you for crushing it. So, and by the way, like, you know, very impressed by just how you navigated the entire process. Like it takes a lot to go through this, and a lot of folks obviously get discouraged, and it's tough. It's not easy, especially in this market. So I guess maybe just as like closing, any tips for folks out there who maybe are like in a similar position as you? Obviously you've got some background, you have some acumen. I think a lot of people are in a similar state as you, like they're evaluating all these different paths. It's hard to pick and choose, but either way, like if you could go back in time, maybe give your younger self some piece of advice, or maybe for folks out there who are considering tech sales ascension, anything you want to leave them with?
Yeah, I think it's easy to get down in the job market that we have right now. It's very competitive. There's lots of talent out there, but I do think that companies look for fresh perspectives. Just because you don't have experience in tech sales might actually be an advantage to you, because the company may not want to train somebody that already has bad habits from a previous role. And it's like this in finance for me too. They almost preferred having fresh perspectives come in so that they can mold you how they want you to be for their team. So I think sometimes that can be a benefit. But don't give up. Treat it almost like you know, an athletic endeavor when you're approaching this, right? If you go to the gym one time, you're not going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, or whoever your idol is, if you have an idol. But you have to kind of go through this process of it's an endurance event, and just keep going, just keep pushing. You know, don't stop. If you stop, somebody else is doing it and they're applying and they're getting in.
Nice. Yeah, well said. I think that's a really good metaphor. So, well, Jason, appreciate the time. This was solid. I think there's a lot of value in here. If you're not too busy ramping, we're going to drop your LinkedIn down below. So anybody who wants, you know, some insight or maybe pick Jason's brain, definitely feel free to reach out to him. But no, appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this and to share your story and your journey. This was really, really solid. So Eric, I don't know if you have any famous last words, but yeah, this was killer.
Yeah. Likewise, I know we talked about it before the recording, but first one at Palo Alto, I was so fired up when I saw that. So among many other accolades, congrats, man. We're really excited for you.
Thank you very much.